Hello and welcome to this iOS 7 programming tutorial. Sorry I have not made one of these videos in a while, but for different reasons I've been really busy. But let's keep going with these tutorials. By the way, thank you so much for watching the last video. I got a lot of views on the other tutorial about how to use auto layout. So I'm gonna make a couple more about the same topic since you guys liked it. So let's get started. On the last tutorial, as I said, we covered how to use auto layout through the interface builder. Now, it is important to realize that we also can implement the same features in code, and both approaches are not exclusive. There might be situations where we might need to create code in addition to having our constraints in the interface builder. Now, in order to create constraints in code, we are going to have to follow two steps. The first one is going to be that we need to create the actual constraint, and then we're going to have to add it to the view. So let's do an example about it. Go ahead and open Xcode, new project. We're going to call it code constraint. Now we're going to go to the viewController.m file, and first of all we need to create some views so we can implement the constraints of them. So we're gonna create a couple buttons and a label just to use as an example. So first of all, you have view equals self.view. This is just saying that whatever the main window is, that's gonna be our view. Now we're gonna create a label. Label is gonna be equal to label alloc initiated. We're gonna set some text into it. Label set translates authorization marks into constraint. No, we don't want any authorization depending on the text for now. Label.text is gonna be equal to hello world. And again, you should be pretty familiar with how the labels work already, since we've used them for the calculator example and a couple more views. Let's make a couple buttons right now. UI button. Remember to use pointers. UI button with type. This is just defining what kind of button we want to use. UI button. We're gonna use contact add. This is just a plus sign button. Set auto resizing mask. Whoops, what did I do? Button set auto resizing. Oops, sorry. Set translate auto resizing mask into constraint. We're gonna say nope. Now we're gonna create another button. UI button. Button 2. And this is gonna be basically the same. UI button with type UI button type contact add button set translate to a sizing mark. Nope, because we want to change the size of it dynamically. Now it is important to remember that in order to see these views, we have to add them to the SuperView. In this case, the SuperView is just view. So say view add subview label view add subview button, and view add subview button 2. Oops, there we go. Now that we have our views, we have to implement the constraints to make sure that the views are in the right positions at all times. So first of all, the way to do that is NSLayout constraint, pointer constraint. This is just going to be the name of the constraint. You can name it as you want. Equals NSLayout constraint with item, and you're gonna see there's a lot of options, so let's go one by one. With item, this one's gonna be label, since this constraint is gonna be applied to a label. Now the attribute in this case is gonna be NSLayout attribute center Y. This is gonna put the label in the center Y coordinate of the screen, related by NSLayout relation equals, so it's gonna be equal exactly the center of the screen. To item is gonna be view. Our attribute is gonna be the same again, NSLayout attribute center Y. Multiplier is 1, so it has to be a float, so 1.0. And constant, we're gonna just say 0. Now, the same we had to do for views, we have to also add constraints to the SuperView. So just say view add constraint, in this case just constraint. Now we're gonna do something similar for the X position, because we're going to have our label in the exact center of the screen, both horizontally and vertically. So just copy this part of code, paste it, and we're gonna change. We don't want to reinitialize constraint, so you can just say constraint equals this. Let's put this in this place, and is layout attribute center X. Same here. The rest is gonna be the same. I know there's, as you can see here, there's a lot of different options for every attribute, different possibilities that we can initialize our labels and views with. If you want to know what each of them do, you're just gonna press Alt and click on it. It will give you a small description about it and since when it's available, in case you are worried about compatibility between different iOS versions. So yes, control click. Now we're gonna implement a couple of them for the buttons. So we're gonna say constraint again. We need to create different pointers. We're just changing whatever constraint the constraint pointer is pointing to. So NSLayout constraint with item button. Attribute is gonna be NSLayout attribute leading. I'm gonna explain what that means in a second. NSLayout relation equal to item label, in this case not view. The attribute NSLayout trailing, multiplier as 1, and the constant in this case is gonna be 10. Attribute leading and attribute trailing, just say whether the button in this case is gonna be right in front of the label or behind it. If we say leading and then trailing, this means we want it in front of it, and if we say backwards, we want it behind it, which would be to the left. And the constant 10 here means that we are putting it 10 extra pixels further ahead. Again, view add constraint constraint. Just a couple more to make sure you guys get it. Constraint. And again, I really encourage you to do this on your own. Like, play with it, try to do things I don't cover in the tutorial, because things like auto layout are really extensive. Sorry for that, I lost my mind. And this layout constraint. Constraint with item, there we go. I was saying that things like auto layout are really extensive and I can't cover everything in these tutorials. So it's usually just good to explore on your own. It's gonna be related ns layout relation equal again to item label attributes gonna be ns layout attribute baseline multiplier again just 1.0 and the constant 0. Now the attribute baseline basically is putting our button in the same baseline as the label. So if the label was here in this line, the button will be in the same line. Again, add the constraint, view, add constraint. Can't type today. Now let's have a couple of them for the button 2. We're just gonna copy this to show you how we can vary the different properties. So the main difference we're gonna say is that in this first one over here, we have to say that this is gonna be button 2 in both cases. Also, we have to specify ns layout attribute center x because we want it at the same x position. It's gonna be equal to label ns layout attribute center x again, and with that 0 we add it. And finally ns layout attribute top. In this case you probably can guess what that does. Yes, situa is the same. It just situates our button at the same with the same top of the label. Ns layout attribute top again, and in this case we're gonna have a -30 because we wanted 30 pixels higher than the actual label. Remember that in most programming languages the coordinates work differently, as y0 is here and as we go farther down y increases, so -30 would be further up. Well, I just noticed that I was actually coding and did receive memory warning instead of view did load. Sorry for that, my bad. So I just copy pasted it. Also, I noticed that I mistyped something here. I said button here instead of button 2, so watch for that. And I think this will work fine. Hopefully I didn't make any more mistakes along the way and it will work first try. And indeed it does. As you can see, we have this button which is the same x coordinate as the label. The label is centered on the screen and it's just 30 pixels on top of it. We also have the second button which is 10 pixels ahead of it. And play with constraints. Just try to change the attributes, change the properties, see what you can do with them. And thank you for watching. Sorry for making a couple mistakes along the way in the coding. I hope they didn't confuse you, and hope to see you around.